Hey guys, Desert Magic here, and if you're looking forward to Rivals of Ixalan, you probably shouldn't be because it's probably going to be some worthless, valueless, just dead on arrival pile of garbage like the last three sets because Aether Revolt can't be beaten. But then again, just don't open any boxes, buy just singles for about half the price, and play Magic for cheaper, so not exactly a 100% downside. But if there's one thing that I know people are pretty much universally looking forward to, it's the storyline, well at least if you follow it. There has been a hanging mystery over the entire storyline for the first 7 sections, which is, why can't anybody planeswalk out of Ixalan? And there's a couple other mysteries, like, why did Nicol want Vraska to go get the Immortal Sun? What does it do? So the storyline has been dropping hints like crazy in the card artwork and a couple other places that basically Azorius is involved just because everything involving the Immortal Sun and the reason that they can't planeswalk out seems to have to do with a triangle with a circle in the middle. That's kind of Azorius' symbol, so would they kind of do a stylized, not accurate version of their logo and slap it on something? I think, unfortunately, debating the reasonableness of that is not very productive. You have to ask yourself, like a total fourth wall break, would the writers of the lore do that to keep it really vague on purpose, even if it defies logic? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. So the Azorius logo is a triangle with a circular maze in the middle. It's not just a maze, it's the maze. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, but the triangle and circle when you try to planeswalk out, like the artwork from Ixalan's Binding and the logo that matches it on the card art for the leaked card, the Immortal Sun, they both show like vaguely a triangle with a circle. But for the people saying, oh, well, it could be the Deathly Hallows because they're a circle within a triangle. Yeah, Wizards paid for that property. Sorry, another fourth wall break there. Hey, sometimes you gotta use real world logic to solve fictional stories because we live in the real world. So assuming it's not the symbol for the Deathly Hallows and that all 3 Deathly Hallows are not contained within the Immortal Sun, the strongest evidence that we have that it is some kind of Azorius invention thing that they made is the fact that they clearly know how to do that type of magic, and it's been referred to as very, very difficult and powerful. Remember, the original Guild Pact item stopped anybody from planeswalking in or out of Ravnica, or at least in, I don't know about out. It even enforced laws between multiple planes. That's crazy. So if the, Council of Azorius or whatever they call themselves, if they had the power and the know-how to make something like that, then that's exactly what it's doing on Ixalan, and also, oh look, triangle circle. And then there's like, okay, Vraska is from Ravnica, so maybe that's a thing, and I think Nicol had like something to do with the storyline of Ravnica at the time, so that might be a thing. So then you look at Shadows, which they had that like puzzle where they had 6 different flavor texts on the Tamiyo's journal. And then that had something to do with like the different clues and stuff. And then once you put it together, it was a quote from Ugin warning about the Eldrazi. So then when people solved that, they're like, oh, it seems to very strongly indicate that the Eldrazi are what's going on. And then some of the card artworks had like really weird mutations, which is what Emrakul does. And then they kept referencing like gravity a whole bunch of times. Well, Emrakul is like the gravity manipulator, so yeah, it all pointed in one direction, and then when Eldritch Moon came out, or some of the spoilers of the first chapter, I don't remember where we first figured it out, but they were like, yeah, it's Emrakul, there it is, it's the Eldrazi, you were right. So then everybody was like, yay, I was right, woo! So people love a good mystery, and they really like to figure out the mystery and then not be wrong, because people just don't like to be wrong, except it's a fictional entertainment storyline, so like if something unexpected did happen, then people kind of like that too. Like for example, the movie The Village, shut up, it was awesome. Okay, as a movie, it wasn't perfect. I get it. I'd maybe give it a 7 out of 10, but I would give, like, The Twist an 11 out of 10. I've showed that movie to friends of mine just solely to get their reaction when the twist is revealed, and usually they, like, jump up, yell, what the hell is going on, and then flip the couch over. Just kidding. I don't have a couch. Where would I put a couch? I don't have couch money. So it's almost, like, better from a dramatic standpoint to have, like, everything pointing in one direction, and then it's, like, a massive red herring, and then it's exactly the opposite of what you think. So are they about to M. Night Shyamalan this? Because everybody was like, ooh, secret, hidden, lore kind of. I mean, it was a card leak. I don't know if that was necessarily purposeful, but when people saw like the symbology and the artwork and stuff on the leaked card for the Immortal Sun, everybody just like flipped and they were like, what are those? I was actually going to edit in like the Max Mofo Pokemon version, but I didn't want to get this demonetized. I'm not saying there's anything stopping you from going to the YouTube search bar and typing in Max Mofo Pokemon. What are those compilation though? Let's just say he gets very excited when he opens an ultra rare Pokemon card in one of the booster packs. I would do all my Magic booster box openings like that, but it would get me evicted. So anyway, yeah, people are way into the storyline. They're way trying to solve it, and they're way like, is it Azorius or is it not? Oh my gosh, to the point where if it wasn't, people would be like, whoa, and then if it was, people would be like, oh my god, I was right. So my point is, from a good story writing, exciting, unexpected, whatever standpoint, it really could go either way. So since a lot of people seem to be as into the mystery as I am, let me propose something else, an alternative theory. But remember, that's just a theory. I'm not gonna say that stupid dead meme. Oh, by the way, my first actual theory is that the first guild pact was not completely destroyed because rule number 1 of, fantasy sci-fi stories is if something is, quote, destroyed completely, what they actually mean is part or all of it actually survived or somebody rebuilt it or whatever because the plot wants it to, and that would be interesting and surprising. I mean, oh no, the character fell off the cliff. They're probably definitely dead. They're probably definitely not if there's a sequel. So my theory was that a piece of the original guild pact was left over and they turned it into a little bit of a powered down weapon, and really the only thing it was capable of doing was keeping people from planeswalking in and out. It makes sense because that's part of what the original guild pact did. So let's just say that that's too neat and tidy and that Wizards is trying to mislead us on purpose so that they can have a big revealing shocking revealing or whatever. Okay, so what other theories are there? Well, one is it's just a thing. It was created by someone we've never heard of or just something out there. It's just somebody built it, we'll never know, and it's just a thing that exists. It's a really old artifact. It's powerful. That's all we know. That's it. But I have come up with a third theory, and it might be full of holes because I'm not that familiar with the lore from old school Magic. I didn't even play back then, and instead of reading a 5-page thing on the internet, you had to read an entire damn novel, which I think we all know I'm not gonna do. So get ready for a partially accurate massacring of your favorite storylines, because we're going back to Dominaria. No, seriously, we're literally going back to Dominaria. It's the next plane after this, which gave me this idea. Why are we going to Dominaria? Is anything on Ixalan from Dominaria? Well, have you heard of a little thing called the Shard of the 12 Worlds? Well, let's back up a little bit to the Golgothian Silex. Perhaps you've heard of that. It's a really, ugly copper-looking bowl with really gaudy, crappy artwork on the side that I think my niece could probably draw. I mean, I'd drop about $7 on it on Hobby Lobby if that was kind of the motif I was going for, but apparently it's not really known for its cosmetic value. And apparently you can translate the stick, people, and wagon wheels. I wish I was kidding. And it translates to use this item to wipe the world clean, to topple empires, to start again. And you might be thinking, what are you going to do? Make really delicious soup in it? No. I actually have no idea how you activate it or whatever, so I'll just assume you go get a car battery, put some jumper cables on it, and attach them to the copper bowl, and then kaboom. I mean, come on, that's basically what they do on Stargate SG-1 in every single episode. Oh, go get a giant space battery that runs on 0-point energy, which is a neutral thing that doesn't work that way. But apparently when you put some double A's in it and then say, hey Alexa, destroy Dominaria, it does it. So basically, Urza and Mishra's armies were completely obliterated, and it made Dominaria go into an ice age. That ice age. But, as is the case with most super weapons, there was a side effect. And the side effect wasn't just the winter. I mean, let's be honest, that probably was the actual effect. No, when it was activated, it accidentally formed the Shard of the 12 Worlds. Honestly, the next time I see a really ugly, African-style copper bowl at a thrift shop, I'm going to buy it just in case. I mean, you never know. Apparently, they're very powerful. So if you want to look more into it, the Golgothian Silex, which was the name of this artifact, caused the Silex Blast when it was activated. So Urza was just like, man, this war's going nowhere. Let's blow it all to hell. Oh, hey, we have a video clip of this.
You know what that is?
Yeah. I hate you!
So Urza and Mishra were both completely disintegrated by the blast, but then apparently the Mightstone and Weakstone somehow resurrected Urza, and then also he became a Planeswalker at the same time. And he saw what he had done, he's like, whoops, and then he left Dominaria. Well, it's a darn good thing that he left when he did, although that might not quite be what happened, because the Shard of the 12 Worlds formed around Dominaria in the multiverse, and it trapped 12 different individual planes in like a little separate bubble, like that one episode of Stargate SG-1 where they're caught in a time loop, aka the #1 highest rated episode in the entire series. You know, they formed like a giant time bubble that was looping, and it covered like, 7 different Stargates, and then the Norwegian aliens were like, oh, what's going on? We can't dial Earth. That's weird. They must be stuck in a time loop. So the effect of this was, get this, those 12 planes that were trapped in it, they were cut off from the rest of the multiverse. So you could only planeswalk between those 12, and then it was like there was a fence around the rest of them. I was going to make like an Omega molecule reference from Star Trek Voyager, but I'm just not gonna. So apparently, actually, Urza couldn't get back in, which is kind of funny, but it also kept Phyrexia from planeswalking to Dominaria, so take that, Phyrexian douchebags. Oh, and it didn't just stop planeswalking, it stopped all transplanar magic, which the only example I know of besides the Silence Blast is the Guild Pact. But keep in mind, there is very powerful magic that can work between planes. I have a theory that transplanar magic and planeswalker sparks and the ability to planeswalk are kind of related, but that's a whole different video. I do think that Wizards is going to elaborate on it pretty heavily in the future, solely because it has the word trans in it. And like the Silex Blast like broke time and stuff, and the shard stood for like 3,000 years. When it was finally broken, people could actually finally planeswalk back in, which I believe is why we're going back to Dominaria. So the timing of this is interesting, and I guarantee you already know where I'm going with this. You know how they said a long time ago the Immortal Sun was used and it caused like a plane-wide disaster that wiped out basically everything, and it might have actually been like climate related? Sound familiar? So obviously the Immortal Sun could be the Golgothian Silex, right? Not exactly. Oh no, guys, the Silex was destroyed in a different storyline. I guess that's the end of that theory, right? Okay, nothing is ever destroyed. You remember me saying that, right? I mean, first of all, it's just like some ugly copper bowl. What if there's an entire set of, gaudy Golgothian kitchenware? Maybe it's a Golgothian spoon. Maybe it's a Golgothian saucepan. Maybe it's a Golgothian serving ladle. Do they all have the same powers? Who knows? But I think it would be a little bit more direct to make it be a remaining shard of the Golgothian Silex. So what were the circumstances of it getting destroyed? No, I'm literally asking you. I'm not familiar with that story. To the wiki! So Urza blew everything up, shattered time and crap, and a bunch of planeswalkers had to sacrifice themselves to like fix it and put time back together. And then there was the Ice Age and all that. So fast forward a whole boatload of years. The Golgothian Silex was not destroyed in its own explosion. It's not what they call a one-hitter. 5 planeswalkers got in a big dispute. It was Lyanna, Ashe, Warlock, Emberic, Christiana, Grenfell, and Altair. Well, it was mostly just Ravadel, and he was like, hey guys, I'm totally going to use this ugly copper bowl again. It went so well the first time. So all 5 of them were like, oh my god, find Ravadel Zhang-un from North Dominaria, Korea. So they went along with it, and then he threatened to use it again, and they're getting kind of, tired of that. So they were like, time to disarm this lunatic. So they went down in the sea and found the lost, what do they call those stupid things? Oh yeah, the long daggers. That's it. That's what they called them. Anyway, they had the ability to power down the Silex, and basically without its protection, they just hit it with a shatter spell, and that made it rust to death or whatever. But it didn't vaporize it. It didn't remove it from existence. It just either split it into pieces or rusted it or both. Sounds an awful lot like there was pieces left over to me, don't you think? So you take the long daggers away, and hey, you got some pieces that may or may not power themselves back up partially. Now, they never said that the Silex could by itself continuously cause an anti-planeswalker envelope. It was more like probably some kind of weird damage to the, the Blind Eternities in that neighborhood. That's the space between the planes, by the way. But still, I mean, it sounds like kind of related magic, and maybe like when it was destroyed, it put out like the pieces put out a constant wave of anti-planeswalking, but like, don't you think that would have affected Dominaria? So maybe they had to like put it back together, and then it just kind of worked, but it leaked power because when, unless it was activated, it didn't stop planeswalking. So now that it's in pieces, it does. I mean, there's some logic there. They could link it up. It's not too far-fetched. I mean, it's not too intuitive, but if they really wanted to make that the storyline, they could do it. So the fact that we're going to Dominaria in the very next set after the core set, then, this artifact was from Dominaria, maybe there's something there. So besides the obvious stuff that it's like, maybe it could go this way, I have a very distinct specific theory. The number one thing that we know about what's inside of the Immortal Sun, which just looks like a vault, so I say inside, but I don't know. I mean, if it's a construct, it could be made out of parts and whatever. The entire storyline is Nicol Bolas wants it. Nicol Bolas wants it, and then we're going back to Dominaria. Put 2 and 2 together. It's the last missing shard of the Silex, and he's going to put it back together. An artifact that powerful might be able to undo the mending. Now, I have no idea what caused the mending or anything around the lore or the storyline. I think I vaguely remember something about it being like the last little bit of damage that was done by the Silex is being activated, like the whole fracturing time and reality thing. When they finally put it back together, then it spread throughout the entire multiverse as a chain reaction somehow and made Planeswalkers less powerful. And remember, we are very, very, very certain in the storyline that Nicol Bolas wants to undo the mending. I mean, he just said something like he wants to have the power that he had before, and everybody knows that the power was stripped away from the Planeswalkers because they're basically gods before, from the mending. That's what caused it. So just the simple fact that, we're left hanging with the Nicol Bolas storyline, and then we're going back to Dominaria where the mending first originated, and the mending may or may not have been caused by the explosion from the Silex. Maybe he's going to put it back together and undo the mending by simply activating the Silex again. Fracture a bunch of crap in reality, and somehow that'll undo whatever the heck the mending had to do with fixing time. Why it wouldn't put the Planeswalker power level back to normal, I don't know. But hey, it kind of makes sense. So yeah, I really fully expect there to be some kind of shard from the Silex inside like a lockdown vault inside Erazka and basically inside the Immortal Sun. Now the other thing is like the entire thing, all the pieces of the Silex are inside of it, and then somebody tried to repair it and then immediately activated it, or while trying to repair it accidentally activated it and blew Ixalan straight to hell. We do know that the Immortal Sun did that to the plane in the past. We don't know how or why or whatever, but we just know that it did do it. Also, the whole thing is like, somebody wielded too much power and nobody should ever use this and it's too much power for one group, and then, look what happened. Which is like literally what happened when Urza activated the Silex on Dominaria. It was like, he wants to stop the whole war, he wants power, he wants a great weapon, he wants control. So it really does line up like lore-wise, time-wise, stylistic-wise, but then again, I'm so not a lore expert, so there could be some giant hole in this or some kind of order chronological thing that I'm missing, but I think it's a pretty solid theory. I mean, it matches what we know about the real releases of the sets and what we know about Nicol Bolas, what we know about, interplanar magic and that kind of stuff. It all really does add up, too much to be just some kind of elaborate coincidence. It's just too convenient and too neat and tidy. Oh, and if you're wondering, the mending occurred about 60 years before the Kaladesh block. Okay, so the mending happened. Nicol Bolas was pissed about the power down, and then remember how long he stayed away from Amonkhet? I believe the estimate stated was 40 to 60 years. Maybe he wasn't there mining that blue ore just so that he could use it as armor for his undead army. That seems kind of roundabout. Maybe that ore, he has a big old, truck full of it, and that's what he's going to use to put the Silex back together. That's a bit of a leap, but I mean, the timing of this is really, really spot on. So anyway, what do you think about this theory? Those of you who are lore experts, comment on it down in the description, and if I'm right, I think that would be pretty cool. But if it's just, it's just Azorius, it's a shard of the Guild Pact, or they rebuilt a miniature version of the Guild Pact and just used Ixalan is basically like a prison planet, and they just sent people there so that they couldn't, planeswalk out. I'd be perfectly happy with that too, because that just is where the story's heading, it seems. But if it's not one of the two, I think I will be disappointed, because then they'd be missing up all these call-outs to older lore, older sets, which they love doing. People were freaking when they did Return to Ravnica. And then people were like, oh my god, we're going back to Zendikar, this is awesome. And then the Eldrazi wrecked Zendikar. Hey, that plane you love so much, we're going back. And it's destroyed. Welcome to Wizards of the Coast. This is why you can't have nice things. And plus, Nicol Bolas is a callback to the old sets. I mean, come on. So I am super excited to see what happens, what goes on. We might not know until right around the release when the last chapter comes out, or I guess shortly after in some cases. But if you don't want to miss the coverage of it, usually within a day or two of the story chapters being released, because I always, paraphrased them in a very respectful and not comical way at all. If you don't want to miss that, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next conspiracy theory.